Hi, I'm Rebecca Bradley. This is the Virtual Crime Book Club. It is Monday, the 6th of March, 2023. Today we are discussing Blood Sugar by Sascha Rothchild. There will be spoilers included in this, so if you're watching the recording rather than being here at the meeting, be aware that we are discussing the whole book. So if you are planning on reading it, maybe read it before you watch this, because we will discuss everything. So, usual first question. Did you enjoy or not enjoy the book? Who enjoyed it?
Me, very much.
I really liked it, yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
me too.
A lot of thumbs up there. Did anybody not enjoy it? Three possible nots. Okay, we'll go with the majority first. Does anybody want to tell me what they enjoyed about it? Because there seemed to be a lot of positivity when I asked if you enjoyed it.
For me,
a lot of enthusiasm.
For me, I just loved the story from the first chapter with the death in the water. I was just absolutely gripped. You know? And what I liked about it was the fact that you knew she'd committed these crimes, but it through the book, it sort of slowly unraveled them. So you knew they were there, but it's like, oh, who was the next one? What was the next one? But actually, the whole book was surrounding actually the death of her husband, and I just absolutely adored this. I couldn't put it down. I ploughed through it in literally a week in no time at all.
Yeah, I loved the fact that right from the very outset, you knew that she was essentially as a sociopath and a really unreliable narrator, as it were. So you had to always be watching out and thinking, I have to just kind of take what she's saying about her justifications with a kind of pinch of salt. But yeah, I love that. I've also I liked My Sister the Serial Killer, which I think is again in very much the same sort of vein. It's a black humor, and yes, no, I liked it.
She was so it was shocking, absolutely shocking, just as Craig was saying in that opening chapter of this young girl killing the boy and thinking it all through, and then the whole thing with the nut in the mouth, and I was like, oh my God, what is she going to do next? And I was absolutely gripped the whole way through.
And the one that I thought was absolutely brilliant was the one with where she sort of like she was standing next to the unpleasant client, and she just stepped out, knowing that the woman would just automatically on autopilot would follow her, and then she stepped out. I thought that was
sold her the dummy.
Again, it's one of those things where you literally did not see that coming, but it was very, very well done. No.
Yes. But could she even be convicted of that one? Because the police, she couldn't, because the police had the video, and it was the woman's own fault. You can't.
It's very hard to prove intent there, I would imagine. You can say, "Oh, and then I realised that the traffic was coming, and I stepped back." I mean,
the woman that has responsibility for herself when she's stepping into a road. She didn't touch her. So it was very, very clever. What about our three readers, Marina, Lorna, and Karen?
I think it's exactly what who was it who was saying? Was it Andrea who was saying about my sister, or Jane about my sister the serial killer? I think that it's just starting to be a bit overdone, because there's How to Kill Your Family, Bella Mackie, which again I read it. I mean, I read these all very quickly and I enjoy them and kind of laugh, at the. Then there was the other one. There was another one that that one came out first. I can't remember the title. And so there've been like a few like that, and I'm just feeling a bit,
feeling a bit oversaturated. Karen?
It was okay, but I just didn't get drawn into any of the characters or anything like that. And I think that's what I like in a book, is that she was the main character and I just didn't have other people to sort of see their opinions and different things. It's not that I hated it or I didn't dislike it, it's just it's not my sort of book, I think.
Do you prefer ones with more than one point of view?
I think so, yeah. I wouldn't particularly pick a book up of hers again. It wouldn't encourage me to do that, but that's my opinion. So.
And was it you, Lorna, who else?
Yeah, I kind of, maybe a bit like Karen, I just couldn't care less about this person. I couldn't get drawn into it because I thought, I really don't care whether she killed them or not,
So I do have questions about this further on, actually, but yeah.
All right, okay, well, just leave it at that.
No, that's fine. But you didn't connect with her.
No. And I felt there were some very preposterous things, and at least one totally wrong thing that I think that any author or editor should put right, but that was just me.
What was that?
It was when she went to this research thing, and they were speaking about the telomeres and as being the ends of mitochondria. Well, they're not. They're the ends of chromosomes. It's a minor detail, I know, makes no difference to the plot, but it grated.
I did actually go to my search engine on my phone, Chrome, and put in the term telomeres. But I haven't been very well while I've been reading it. So I didn't actually read what it said. I just opened it, put it in to go back to later. So I did go in to have a look to see what they were, because I have heard of them before.
Yeah, I mean, in all other respects, there was nothing wrong with using the term telomere and the lengthening and shortening of it. All that was fine. It was just the one word. But then you made me think, well, what else did you not bother to get right that I didn't pick up?
Yeah, I think it has come up in maybe a science fiction or something that I've read before. Did you find the structure easy enough to follow? Because with the childhood and life of Ruby mixed in with the current moment of the police interview, and then it's stretching on after the interview, was it structurally easy to read?
Yeah, I found that quite difficult. I think it might have been better if the investigation had come later on in the book rather than bits right at the beginning and then going through it. It didn't hold the structure properly, I don't think.
And I know my editor, or one of my editors, because I have two editors now, for the two different series, really likes a linear chronology.
But I think, on the contrary, I have the feeling that a lot of editors, a lot of publishers seem to not like that. So they want you to have something up front that to make it that's in the present, to make it sort of more exciting. And then you can go back and see how did they get here. So I have the feeling that's, again, a bit of a fashion thing, which, again, it felt a little bit, I suppose, to me, but that's the danger when you read a lot of crime fiction, isn't it? That at some point it starts feeling a little bit like paint by numbers. And I wonder, this is her first book, isn't it? It's a debut. So I wonder if, maybe she didn't have enough, insight into a story or the ability to say to an editor, no, I don't want to go down the fashionable route.
Or maybe it was picked up because she
did do the fashionable thing. Yeah.
But I mean, I did read that she's done a lot of screenwriting. So I wonder if because it was quite visual, you could imagine them you know, it being televised or on film of sitting in this and, you know, and the book being portrayed that way. So it may well be that that's how she thought she would write a novel.
I think screenwriters can actually picture things and play with structure a lot differently to how people who write just novels do things. So yes, I think they're a little bit more, they have a little bit more play in them. Right, going back to something Jane said, she said that you said, Jane, that Ruby was a sociopath, but I picked up early in the book that Ruby does a self-assessment that concludes she's not a sociopath. So my question was, why do you think it's so easy for her to kill? But you got the impression she was a sociopath.
Yeah, yeah, very much, because she didn't seem to have any sense of I mean, particularly with the, you know, to have actually killed another child when she was so young herself. I kind of think that has to raise a flag that says potentially she is. And she, although you could maybe justify in her mind, justify the father of her friend, who sounds like a pretty repellent character. The other death for which she was responsible was just merely because you don't like somebody and they get on your nerves and maybe they smashed one of your objects. It doesn't really seem good grounds. But she's just basically saying, well, she's an awful person. She got what, you know. and she didn't seem to have any sense of the wrongness of her actions.
But is a sociopath capable of love? Because I don't understand, what's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath?
Psychopath. Yeah, that's the one I've always. I'm going to have. Having said use the word, I'm now going to have to look it up. Just bear with me.
But I mean, is it not a case that because? Sorry, I can't actually remember her name because it's all written in the first. Ruby. Because it's all from Ruby's point of view.
Yeah.
In Ruby's mind, the people she killed had done wrong.
Yeah.
And they didn't meet her standards for one reason or another. It wasn't like she was going to kill any child in the water, only the one that
but a psychopath,
was bullying her sister.
But a psychopath might kill, as I understand, a psychopath might, you know, like serial killers may be psychopaths because they will kill just anyone that fits that criteria, where she was very specific. But what it says for sociopath is somebody who has a mental health condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. And I sort of kind of felt she did feel to me a bit like that she actually felt.
No, she had. I would have said she had a strong sense of right and wrong, and these people were wrong in her mind.
And
I'm not sort of saying we would judge them as wrong, but she did.
And she loved Ellie. She loved Roman.
Yeah, she got on well with her parents. She had friendships. You know, she had all.
She loved her husband.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very strange because she definitely didn't fit psychopath, because I listened to a non-fiction book by a doctor and a psychopath, diagnosed psychopath who isn't a killer. He worked in the armed forces, and the doctor was saying psychopaths are very good in high stress situations like bankers, surgeons, armed forces, etc. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to kill, but they have to mimic emotion, whereas Ruby actually had the emotion. So it was, so what?
Well, according to her, again, you know, how reliable is she as a narrator? And yeah, there are certain bits where I have the feeling that she might be, and I don't know if that's just how the author has written it or whether it's deliberate, the character, where it does feel that she's kind of mimicking things because she's studied psychology, so she knows what she's supposed to say.
She did say, I didn't know how I was supposed to react, whether I was supposed to break down in tears and react to this death. How people were supposed to, how did people expect me to react? So yes, I suppose if she had a diagnosis, it was up for debate. Yeah. So
I don't think it's a normal condition for a 5-year-old to kill a 7-year-old. So there must be some psychological problem that she has, be a sociopath, psychopath, but she definitely wasn't normal.
No.
But at that age, would she really have understood that killing someone really meant, you know, a 5-year-old probably does not have a real understanding of death.
Well, that's a really good point, because we in the UK we have an age limit for law of age of responsibility. I don't know about other countries what their age limit is. I know it was lowered. I'm not going to bring up specific crimes to upset people, but
no, I was just sort of thinking generally, if you think of any 5-year-old, think of all these kids that go off to school on their first day and such, like, you know, they can come away with lots of stories and all the rest about, you know, things, but they don't, you know, I don't really think that they can accept death and that they're not going to see somebody again, but they don't really understand that you have that person now ceased to exist. You know, I think
that's a good point about the first one, the early death. But and the second one, it was a bit too thought through rather than reactive with the peanuts.
Maybe if you've given
Very
yourself,
clever.
You know, it's always very difficult to, you know, is this a novel and the author has meant us to think all these things, or are we just overthinking it all? You know, you know, it would be easy enough to sort of say that this person, she knew she killed as a child, she's never let on about it, but in order to live with herself, she has given herself this permission to not feel guilt about it. So therefore, it's okay to kill again and not feel guilt if somebody breaches her standards, you know, or it's just a plot in a book.
And then I go back to my point about a sociopath, whether she was or she wasn't, because she then says that, doesn't she imply that basically she's decided, like her construct for how many men she's going to sleep with, you know, so many per decade, that she's never going to sleep with more than her number of years. And then she basically says, well, I think I'm going to go for one murder per decade isn't bad. I'm going to be judge, jury, and executioner once it, and that really doesn't sound to me, I mean, like somebody who really understands the difference between right and wrong. So I'm going to stand by I think she's a sociopath.
Yeah.
It's definitely got something that we wouldn't class as normal.
No, there's definitely something there that's not quite.
I'm just.
That's what I found so fascinating.
A series of books for each decade.
Yeah.
That's what I found so fascinating about her early on. The second murder, when she the nut in the mouth, and then she finished the packet of M&Ms afterwards, and I just couldn't wait to see what this woman was going to do next, and it almost upset me. This is a terrible thing to say. When she fell in love and got married, I wanted her to carry on as a reader.
Just an aside. I mean, I don't know how seriously I mean this or not, but just as an aside, I've said that I think she's an unreliable narrator. Are we absolutely convinced she didn't bump off her husband? Because as they make it clear, she financially she did benefit from it. She did admit to the frustrations that she felt over some aspects of marriage, their differences, like, and she did clear all of his stuff away very, very quickly when she, all those things that pointed towards her guilt. Were they actually not just, were they more than just, unfortunate coincidences, and actually pointers that she was actually guilty as charged? Just throwing that thought out there.
I thought of that as well.
I think the theme of the book was, I'm being charged with this murder I haven't committed, but I have committed all the others.
But again, that's her point of view.
I think the brutal honesty about the others may be what leads us to think she probably didn't kill him.
I think she could have killed him in a fit of rage, and then having not thought it through, because she doesn't think things through properly. So she might have killed him at a spur of the moment, and then thought about it afterwards and thought, I shouldn't have done that because I would have missed him.
Yeah, and because with the others she has a justification in her mind, while with him she doesn't really have a justification. So I think that she might
clear the worktops. You left his stuff everywhere.
So yeah, so but she's a high functioning whatever sociopath or whatever she is. So she would need to be pretty convincing to herself, I think, of why she does what she does. So yes, I had doubts. I wasn't entirely sure about that. I wanted her to be let off for that one, but at the same time I was like,
yeah. Going back to Lorna's point, the story was told completely from Ruby's point of view, and Ruby goes around killing people, as we've discovered. Did you find it easy to connect with her, as she was the sole point of view for the entire story, or did you find it, did I say easy, or did you find it difficult to connect with her?
I found it too easy to connect with her, which says a lot about me.
I'll concur that I loved her.
When
I thought she was a great character.
You thought she was a great character, Craig?
Yeah, I seem to be freezing a little bit here. Yeah, I really liked the character. I really liked her. I was devastated when she was at risk of being caught, and I wanted her, like Chris, to carry on, sort of touch, and I absolutely adored this book. I didn't try and read too much into it. I just let it flow. I didn't worry whether she was what she was. It was just great. I honestly could not put this book down. And as for me, maybe it says me, I like the sort of television maybe approach to it, or film approach to it. But I'm searching her and trying to find, when you're writing another novel sort of touch, I really liked it.
Yeah. Lorraine, what were you going to say? Did you connect?
Oh yeah, I froze a bit there too. No, I think we're all doing that at the moment. But anyway, the part where she was justifying her murders. I mean, haven't we all sort of said, geez, I could kill that person, and not gone through with it, of course. But on a couple of occasions there she justified her. She was 5 years old, but yeah, I mean, that was probably a bit of a stretch. But she, her beloved sister, was being absolutely bullied with this kid pulling her hair out and leaving bits of her head. I mean, if I had the opportunity, I was swimming along the sort of like that. Yep, might give you under for a bit too, which says a lot about me, which is really quite worrying. But the other thing with the peanuts and everything, I thought, yes, you've thought that through. And then to eat the peanuts, you had to get rid of the evidence. Hello. And I certainly don't believe that she murdered her husband. I really do not. And this business about, getting rid of the clothes very quickly, I did exactly the same thing when my husband died. It was just, I just had to, certain things I kept, and I still have them, and he's been gone 15 years, but I had to get rid of had to get rid of stuff. I just had to do it. And so, you know, I understand that kind of thing. Grief is everyone's individual thing. And it's, and of course she had the anger, she had all those 7 stages. I mean, everybody has that. But I really thought her mother-in-law was the worst piece of work you could ever have. And what was her agenda? Jealousy, money, you name it. Being, I'm sure we'll get onto that. But I really enjoyed this novel, and I really went with the flow. And I just sort of felt, sometimes I sort of thought, wow, I identify with her too much. So watch out.
I'm glad you're way over there.
Yes, yeah. Certainly wouldn't be going in the water with her.
No. No, definitely.
I think I was a bit like Lorraine. I just went, and Craig, I just went with the flow, and I did really enjoy this book, and I just let it. And I could see where her justification came from for like clearing out the house, because she does have OCD, and she does,
yes,
you know, she only uses a purple pen, and she can't use another pen till the pens run out, and she only sleeps with the number of men for a number of years or something that I can't remember exactly, but there's only so many men she's allowed to sleep with. So she can't sleep with another one till she has a birthday. I could see how she could justify things, and I think I just went with it. I mean, it wasn't totally believable, but I just really liked it. So yeah.
And she loves her animals.
And she
I probably enjoyed the first half of the book better, when she was going around killing people. I found it a bit boring when she was just grieving over her husband. I could have done with a couple more murders, I think.
Yes. Yeah, maybe, yes, yeah.
Well, you say that, but then when there was the Bella Mackie one with how to kill your family, where she had quite a lot, she had about 7 to kill from the family. And after a while it got, and although it was very clever and you know, there were very inventive ways of killing, after a while it did get a bit repetitive. So, you know, but maybe one more could have done the trick.
She got rid of her mother-in-law, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely that one. So did you want, all right, if you connected with Ruby, even though she was a killer, what do you think the author has done to make this connection happen? Because she was the bad guy.
There were some human qualities, you know, like empathy. I mean, you know, and the thing is, a person is super bad. We all know a person can be super. If you're cruel to animals, you got to watch that person. But she loved her animals. She loved her husband, you know, and she had a great relationship with Roman, even though he was, you know, a lad who betrayed her. But she didn't go out and kill him. She just walked away from that one. The friendship was too deep. But you know, I mean, she just had, and I've got a bit of OCD. You wouldn't notice it from my study here with all my books and research stuff. But anyway, you know, I like things in a certain place in a certain way, and you know, and that business was about not sleeping with someone because, you know, she had to. I thought, oh God, I think I've been there, and you know, so I understand the OCD and the only working with one pen until it runs out and that kind of thing, and you know, so I identified with it too much. It scared me.
Yeah, you're scaring me now.
Hey, I'm heading over there in September. Watch out.
Yeah, I'm going to hide.
We're all leaving the country in September.
Yeah.
I imagine that animals had a lot to do with it, because if an author kills a dog off in a book, they get slated in emails by readers. So I imagine a lot has to do with how likable she is her caring for the animals as well.
Also, there was the client that she really cared for, the one who thought
at the end.
Yeah, who was responsible for her for the FBI agent's death. When it turns out, you know, because she overhears that conversation in the police station, she's able to tell her, no, it would have happened anyway. you were not the cause. It wasn't because you chose that restaurant or whatever. It was just you were unlucky to be there as a bystander. He was always going to be the target of the bad guys. And she, again, that makes her a more likable, if you like, character, because she, you know, had she been totally without feeling, she would not have done that. She just thought, oh well, she's cut me off. I'm not going to make her feel any better about life.
And she'd have been too wrapped up in herself to even think of her old clients. But she sought her out and to help her move on. Did you want Ruby to be sentenced for Jason's death, or for her to walk away as she didn't do it, even though she'd murdered 3 other people?
No, I wanted her to get away, not go to jail under any circumstances. And certainly not for Jason's death. You know, if they were going to get her on anything, it had to be her friend's father's death. That would be it, you know. But that's probably the one they could probably get a case for. But not for Jason. I mean, you know, and of course, I love the way that Roman had said his, anyway, we won't go forward with that because I'm sure that's going to come up. But, you know, I mean, the mother-in-law was the one who certainly deserved a knife in the back and twist, you know, but no, not for Jason.
Yeah, although that made me wonder a little bit, because although she got off, and as I said, I was kind of wishing she would get off, you know, although I wasn't even sure that she hadn't had something to do with Jason's death. But anyway, but I still wanted her to you know, I don't know why. Anyway, but then it did upset me a little bit that they actually did that by cheating, you know, that her friend Roman got her off by, it just felt a little bit,
I think he's an interesting character because he obviously, I mean, stop me if we're jumping ahead here, but it's interesting that he was happy to get her off, or when he must have had doubts himself, when he, particularly when all this other information kept on turning up, you know, like when the CCTV footage of the incident of crossing the road, and he must have had his doubts about Ruby and about, you know, what she'd actually been getting up to.
But lawyers don't care about their clients' guilt or innocence, do they? Plus, he's a best friend, so as a lawyer, he's just going to do what he would do, I imagine.
Yeah, to me, he came across as a really callous person who was only interested in himself, and was prepared to do anything to make sure he had a good image. And that's what he was doing. As a lawyer, sorry about that. He, you know, it's all a game to him to make him look good.
Good lawyer.
I think she came out looking the better, even though she was the murderer. She looked the better behaved out of the 2 of them.
So it's better to be a triple murderer than a lawyer, is that right?
No, but I mean, I think they're both damaged people, if you know, I mean, because they both end up texting each other, speaking to each other every day, sort of idea by the end of the book. And you kind of think, you know, it's because they've got nobody else who's interested in them.
It's an interesting concept, though, that the author brings up, that should the killer, Ruby, be sentenced for the death that they didn't commit in lieu of the 3 that they did commit? Or should they walk and justice be served for each individual crime?
I think it's got to be, surely it's got to be for each individual crime. If, you know, I mean, part of you might think, you know, that's there should be some sort of law of the universe that you have to, you know, you get done for you know, for the things that, you know, if that's the only way they can get you, you know, basically. But I don't think it works like that. To me, it has to be, you know, if the police couldn't make a case for the murders that she had committed, then basically justice says she walks free on them. I think
you could say that justice, for justice's sake, she should be sentenced and put away for life, because if not, she's got to kill somebody every decade. So you're saving lives by sentencing her.
Because who was the mobster they couldn't get for the murders? So they
it was Al Capone.
Asian.
Yeah, it's Al Capone.
Yeah, Al Capone.
So it was a different.
Yeah,
a different crime.
But they actually did make, yes, it was a different crime, but they did manage to find the evidence and make the case stand. Whereas what I'm saying,
it wasn't crime. Whereas with this,
if the police can't make the case, or haven't, you know, if they could have made the case probably for the, you know, with the father, fine, you know, I would have been on one level I would have been happier with that as a result, that she'd actually, you know, that she did end up going to prison for that crime that she did commit. But ultimately, I think it has to be for the crime that they committed, and say that's down to the police to find the evidence to put them away. Because otherwise, you can basically say you'd be opening the doors to all sorts of, you know, well, we can't get them for that one, but we think we're pretty sure they did that one, so we'll just make that fit. Instead, it just doesn't feel right to me.
To me, that was a large part of the enjoyment of the book. The fact that you didn't know what was going to happen to her with regard to the death of her husband, and I personally didn't want her to get convicted for that. And so it was that battle going on in the book where you knew all the time she committed all these other crimes. And I just found that really fascinating, watching that battle played out, and the end result and the way they got off. I you know, once again, I thought, my God, I you know, where did that come from? Although there was a part right at the beginning when he was cheating, wasn't he? And
yes.
You never really knew that she'd got him off because the book just moved forward. And yes. but you that was always playing in the background, and when they got back together again, you thought, oh well, yeah, where it was. But I just didn't see it coming, you know. And all of a sudden, I honestly thought that the maid was being, you know, sort of truthful, had been approached by mother-in-law, because the mother-in-law was awful. And that's why I loved that character so much, because, you know, it's wrong for me to say, but the ones who died sort of, you know, deserved it a bit, but but the ones who were attacking her, like the mother-in-law, were really, you know, awful characters as written. And the policeman, it was fine, he was doing his job, but he was sniping constantly, and he was pushing, but at the wrong crime. And you know, it was I loved it.
So what were the feelings on the mother-in-law?
But in a way, doesn't that sort of mirror? So the mother-in-law kind of gets accused of something that she didn't commit, ultimately, which is sort of like the mirror image of her. And I suppose you could say that's kind of justice of a sort, but yeah.
Oh yes, because she started the inquiry in the first place.
I mean, she was horrendous. She makes my mother-in-law look bearable. But the character who I really liked, I don't think we've even mentioned her this evening, was the flatmate, Amina. I really liked the fact that she was of Indian heritage, but it was a really modern take on her. She was gay. She knew her own mind. She stood up to her parents and stood up to what she believed in. And I just really liked that approach of a character, which you don't read so often.
Yeah. Was she the daughter?
She was the flatmate in college.
The flatmate when she was at university or college.
Yeah, the
Yeah, that's
roommate
right.
at college.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
I mean,
I did
that she sort of like
actually
keeps on in touch with on and off.
Yeah,
Mm.
I felt that the author was very lazy with the minor characters. You know, we have this first chapter where Ruby kills this other boy because Ellie is so important to her and she's getting bullied by him. And she's so upset when Ellie goes off to college. And then when she goes off, we really don't meet up with Ellie again for about another 20 years or another 15 years, depending on what it was. And I felt it was the same with Amina, that they were weirdly together in that, you know, like they stayed in their room when everybody else would have moved off campus or whatever, you know, moved out of the halls, as we would call them, sort of idea. And then again, Amina didn't come into it for ages. And then suddenly she's back being a best friend again, and they're going hiking. And I just felt that these sort of minor characters were all used. It was the same with our own friend group that they started off with. They make odd appearances, but only when the author wants them to be there, rather than, you know, there's no, doesn't seem any contact between Ruby and her sister all the way through the book, except at the beginning and the end.
Well, I sort of believe that, you know, to keep the fast pace going, which it did, if you were to stop and talk about other interactions, it'd slow the pace down. And that's what I enjoyed about this novel. I mean, I've had friends for, you know, many, many years. We come in and out of one another's lives as life happens, because things happen to us. But I just felt that, you know, with the pace, I wanted to keep the pace going. And if I'd had all these little sort of other interactions and whatever, it might have just put me off the pace. So
yeah, but it would only take a sentence to sort of say, you know, there's a weekly phone call, a weekly Zoom with her sister. You know, I'm not meaning to put in loads or anything, just some reference that they have an ongoing relationship.
Yeah, I also felt that quite a few of the minor characters were quite flat. I didn't get a lot of depth. And again, that's probably the sort of cinematic quality, you know, they just play their role, they have a part to play, and, you know, you've got to keep up the pace. But yeah, I just didn't connect much with them other than Ruby, maybe Roman and her husband. Yeah. That's about it.
The minor characters, I wasn't well while I was listening to the audiobook as well, so it was easier for them to slip past me if I kind of started dozing while I was listening. So that's why I missed maybe one or two, but I got the main book, got through the main book. So were you surprised by the ending, the way it turned out?
I think the ending was the one thing that I was a little bit disappointed. Well, not disappointed by so much as I almost thought she'd got to the stage where she concluded everything, but she didn't quite know how to end it, if that makes sense. And that's when she came up with this. I mean, are we meant to assume that she's essentially going to train up her niece to follow in her footsteps, as it were, or to? There was. I thought that was a weird sort of kind of suggestion. With I can't even remember the way it was put in the book right at the very end. But as I say, I just felt that it sort of like, having been a cracking read, and I thoroughly subscribed to the view, it was a real page turner. It kind of then it came across as quite a sort of like almost like it petered out, rather than, you know, you kind of like with a lot of these you're looking for a huge twist, and for me that twist might have been to find out that actually she did do her husband in or whatever, and I just didn't feel it just worked for me. And I don't really know why. So anyone who's got any thoughts along that line would be helpful.
No thoughts on the ending?
I was just glad to get to the end.
Oh dear.
Were you satisfied by the ending, even if you weren't surprised?
Yeah,
So
after the betrayal by after Roman's little stunt, and the fact that it was he really cheated, but he cheated, the system, but and basically got her exonerated, which she was in for the wrong thing anyway. I just sort of thought, yeah, well, that was all I needed. I didn't care how it ended. I mean, it might have been nice to have a twist to find out that, yes, she had actually done Jason, but then that'd make me want to go, I want to read another sequel. I need a sequel, but I think, no, it's sort of, it was okay. I mean, my heart had to stop racing. So, and my ideas had to stop forming. So it was good to sort of finish.
I quite like the idea that it wasn't quite. She perhaps was going to go on and think about another the odd murder with her niece Molly.
Yeah.
Sort of kept you thinking about what's going to happen next.
But were you satisfied with how Ruby's case was wrapped up?
I thought it went well. Yes.
Yeah.
Particularly the mother-in-law getting her comeuppance a bit as well.
Yeah, that was good.
I think what I was trying to get at was that I think she was looking to give a twist at the end, as you do, and then the logical twist for me would have been to find out that she had done the husband or killed the husband, but actually the twist she went for was this suggestion that you get that I think it says, I've just looked it up, it says, but I could be a good aunt and give Molly the tools she needed to protect herself, all the while keeping an eye out for my own bullies to slay. And this sort of like this kind of suggestion that she's basically going to almost be a role model for her niece. And I just thought, well, yeah, that's a twist, but I'm not entirely sure I'm not really sure it worked for me. And it was the only thing that I would say for the book that didn't work for me. But
does it sort of lead itself to a follow-up novel?
Yeah, possibly. But I just felt it. I think what I'm getting at is it felt like a slightly false note, and it was the only false note for me in the book. But there you go.
So this was a debut then? I don't think it was. I think she's had others out, This was debut month. No, this was debut month. Yes, no, it was a debut. Would you read? But she's done scripts, hasn't she? That was what we were talking about. Would you read another book by Sascha?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would.
Yes, yeah.
Go on, Marina. Yeah, I would.
The narrator actually was very good and brought Ruby to life very well. I did enjoy the audio.
Did she have a Southern American accent, sort of Florida accent, the narrator? I
don't know what a Florida accent sounds like, so I wouldn't be able to say. But it was an American accent. Yes, but she just brought Ruby to life. So yeah, she was good. So the majority enjoyed the book. So great. Let me just stop the recording. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about the book before I stop the recording? No. Okay.
It's good.